You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Posture Screen, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Moguls, Fit to Lift, 5-Star Management, Rhino Coaching, Chiro Health USA, Local Gold, The Goodman Factor, McCaffrey Clinical Mentoring, Go Get Talks, Chiro Thin, Unmarket Your Practice, and Free My Pain Now with Dr. Matt DeDuro. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 135 of Chiro Hustle. I'm your co-host Luke Millette, and here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Gregg Gerstin, and if you want to know more about how to share the chiropractic story and hear somebody that's actually compiling the messages, stay tuned. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Chiro Hustle podcast. We have Dr. Gregg Gerstin coming in from Northbrook, right? Northbrook, Illinois?
Yes.
Awesome, and we're really happy to have you today. And how we lead into this is we ask you, the doctor, to tell us your story and why you decided to become a chiropractor first. So would you please tell our audience a little bit about your chiropractic story?
Yeah, so my chiropractic story gets started, back when I was 12, I actually moved to Marietta, Georgia. And for those that don't know, that's where one of the largest chiropractic schools were. But I didn't quite get chiropractic then. For me, the chiropractic school created all the quacks on the other side of town. It wasn't until a lot later in college that I got introduced to chiropractic. And the beginnings of this story is when I moved from Marietta, Georgia, which everybody knows is the pollen capital of the world. If you went to school there or you've ever been, right? You just come out and your car has been yellow rather than whatever color it is. But when I left Marietta and I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan, I all of a sudden had horrible allergies. I mean, the kinds that cause sneezing fits that aren't just like 2 or 3 in a row. I'd have like 12 or 15 sneezes. So I couldn't carry on conversations. I felt pretty miserable, but I was 17. I had no idea what to do with myself. About 2 or 3 weeks into school, my mom heard me on the phone and she said, go to the health centers. So I went to the health centers and they gave me a Claritin D and an antibiotic and they told me I'd be fine in 2 weeks. Well, 2 weeks and 1 day came and it was all back. I was miserable. So I went back, I did that dance for a month or two, and my mom heard me on the phone still sounding like crap. She talked with our doctor back in Georgia, and he wrote me a long-term prescription of Claritin D. I took it because I didn't know what else to do. But if I ever missed a single day, my sinuses and my allergies all came back, and it was miserable. So fast forward into my sophomore year, I was an athletic trainer with the track and field teams, and I was hosting an outdoor meet. It was a 4-day meet, and I was responsible for it all. Day 1, I forgot my Claritin D. So by the end of day 1, I was sneezing, congested, and miserable. And the team coaches sent me home. They didn't want the athletes to get sick. The team chiropractors said, why don't you come in and get checked, and maybe I can help. I was just like, what is this guy talking about? He's a chiropractor. He cracks necks. He doesn't deal with sinuses or allergies. But I said, well, what did I have to lose? So I went in and I checked him out, and he told me that my spine, particularly my neck, was distressed and it was stretched out. And it was causing my nervous system to overreact, impacting and affecting my immune system. I said, I guess maybe that could happen. That's really far reaching. Why don't I give it a try? So I started to work with him, and within a couple of weeks, my sinuses cleared. Within a couple of months, I was off the medication. I was just like, what is going on here? And he started to share with me the chiropractic story and what chiropractic was doing for me and had done for thousands of others. I was massively intrigued by it and just started to dive into the rabbit hole of what chiropractic is and where health truly comes from. And that started me on this journey to chiropractic.
So what would you say makes you unique or different in the chiropractic world?
So I would definitely say the necessity and the interest to wind up digging to understand the why. Why someone is experiencing life the way they are. Whether it's that they have a health condition or a health issue, or that they're not able to do what they used to be able to do. Wanting to dig in and find the why for patients has really helped for me to propel and move forward. Not only have I focused to understand the human relationship and how to pull that from people and to talk with people about that. But then also in the clinical setting in our practice, we use some detailed chiropractic biophysics to understand how spinal breakdowns happen and then understand how to restore them back to proper position to allow for easiest and efficient flow. We go through and do some detailed work to understand the potential for correction and how to restore life back to health.
And I know that after you finish school, it's not just you jump right into doing chiropractic biophysics. Let's talk to our audience a little bit about what it takes for you to get that specificity in the care that you provide.
Yeah, so when I graduated, I graduated and I took an amazing associate. I wanted to learn and understand what real practice was like. You know, in school, we don't get that very much. We get clinical practice where you might see 2 patients in a day. But, you know, I knew chiropractic and helping people change their life was going to be about helping way more people, and there had to be a better way. So I had a great experience and opportunity to work with a doctor, Dr. Jack Sherritt in Batavia, Illinois, where I got to get my hands on, got to make mistakes, and I've learned how to care for people and connect with people. After about 1.5 years, I went out into my own practice, and I looked to model and mimic what we did at Sherritt Chiropractic. And it was working, and patients were getting great results and feeling really good. But I had this one case where a woman came to us who was unable to participate in any activity. She was really depressed, fatigued, lethargic. She had back pain, neck pain all over, and she wasn't active at all. We started to work together, and over a year period of time, we took her from totally inactive and totally depressed and totally unhappy about life to fully engaged in life and fully active, working out 3 days a week. It was pretty awesome. But we did a re-exam on her where we actually looked at the x-rays of her spine, and her spine continued to progress and get worse. So at this point, I was really frustrated because I was told that, you know, if we adjust the spine and we correct the spine, then our patients should wind up getting better and degeneration should slow down, right? We got those charts on our wall, but it was really frustrating to me. So I spent a year studying accident reconstruction and biomechanics of the spine and crash through the San Diego Spine Institute. And I really learned and understood the depths of how our spine breaks down and how trauma and impact winds up causing those changes and the devastating effects of them. I also learned how to document and how to build relationships with attorneys. But I didn't learn, what do I do in clinical practice with these patients now that they've got these changes? Luckily for me, a few months later, cervical rehabilitation of the spine was coming to town here in Chicago. And I thank Deed and the team for always coming here to Chicago, and particularly this year, because I went and I attended, and I got reconnected with the fact that there's actually a normal position that the spine should be in. Just like we have a normal blood pressure, and just like we have normal blood sugar, and we have a normal temperature, there's, you know, research out there that's shown that there's a normal position your spine should be in. And it's not just so that you can move right or be out of pain, but it's so that you can thrive. And not just for the neck, but for the thoracic spine and for the lumbar spine. And it kind of made sense to me if there were ways to non-surgically restore the body back to these positions, well, we should probably be applying them. And so I started to kind of fall down this rabbit hole of CBP, which is a process of understanding what's normal, what's abnormal, and then understanding some of the key tissues that can be modified and are modified as a result of trauma as well as long-term stresses, and then how to wind up modifying them, and as well when they can't be modified. And I've spent the last 7 years just diving into the information, because there is so much information that the people at CBP Nonprofit have put together and capsulized to help that process just skyrocket for us. So we don't have to spend 30 years in our career to wind up learning all the information that is key and potent to making sure you can practice. As a part of moving through this rabbit hole and this study, I've wound up learning a tremendous amount about scoliosis and scoliosis management. And for me, this really wound up hitting home. You know, actually right now, it's kind of coincidental. My brother and my niece are in Tampa, and they live in Georgia, but they went to Tampa because there's a neurosurgeon there. And when my niece, who's 13, was 5, they started to notice that she had a scoliosis. And that's a really young age to wind up having a scoliosis. So they went through and they did imaging of her to understand what was going on. And what they found was that there was some kind of a mass right up at the upper thoracic spine at T1, T2. And they wound up monitoring it for 5 years to make sure that it didn't change, because she didn't have any sort of neurological symptoms. And to do a spinal surgery, particularly on a developing spine, well, we all know spinal surgery in general, it's a bad idea. However, about 2 or 3 years ago, it started to change. So they decided that it would be best to remove it. And so about 2 or 3 years ago, they went to their children's hospital in Tampa. It's a Johns Hopkins affiliate. And the doctor did the procedure there. So I've been exposed and interested in this for a really long time, because even though they wound up removing the tumor and they put her back together, she still does have a significant scoliosis, because over the last 6 years, she's been growing into this scoliosis. So I've had a deep connection to it, and here I've been able to implement many unique and different systems and processes to help measure it, track it, and to non-surgically wind up changing those curves when there's no tumors involved, and to help not only kids, but also adults and seniors wind up getting back to the life that they want to and need to.
You know, some of the things you're saying there really make me, they put a light bulb off my head, because when I go out and do the work that I do, like I did for your practice, I correlate poor postural distortions with the organ system. And that doesn't just mean like the heart and the stomach and the, you know, the spleen and those organs. That also means your glandular system. And a lot of times when there's compression on those nerve roots, when the body doesn't flow from above down, inside out, it locks up and it pools. And that's probably what you're talking about with this mass that was growing, is the body wasn't flowing the proper way because of the postural distortions, putting pressure on that glandular system, and the eliminative system gets shut down then. And then the body starts pooling in strange areas. And before we know it, we have this dysfunction in the tissue, which we know that when you get adjusted, it affects every organ, tissue, and cell in the body. So, you know, there's so much, you know, simplicity involved. But when we start looking at the macro and the micro of something cropping up, especially at such a young age, it doesn't take long for dysfunction and disease to manifest, especially when we have these advanced postural distortions, and scoliosis is one of those. So you understanding the advanced research behind biomechanics and biophysics, and you know what it takes to become an athletic trainer like you have in your past, and then becoming a doctor of chiropractic, there's so much involved in your headspace. And then what you see factually, whether you agree with it or not, these are things that are real in our society. And honestly, one of the things I tell people, even when I'm out doing work, especially your clinic, I'm like, most time people don't do anything about their health concerns because they don't know where to go or who to trust. So when they meet someone like you that has this advanced education and knowledge base and skill sets, even when you don't know how to like take care of something the right way, the body's still, it's still a mystical thing when it comes to how to identify a cause and get a solution-based treatment protocol going.
Yes, it is.
Do you have any favorite mantras or motivational quotes that keep you going every day?
Yeah, so one of them that I keep near and dear, and a mentor of mine regularly says, if he could do it, I could do it too. You know, we don't always, you know, I think in my head that it's not great to compare to other people, but when I look at colleagues out there and I wonder, how do they accomplish things? How do they do things? How do they make things happen? I mean, like, who listening to this doesn't say, how does Jim Chester do what he does, right? He's got like, you know, he doesn't sleep, and he's got like 15 hands to wind up managing all the Facebook posts he does, and then wind up being able to screen people, and then he's developing movies, but he's got a great team and great people. But for me, that's been one of the things that has really kept me pushing, kept me motivated, and kept me moving along. Not only in practice, when I look to work with and connect with people who are cheerleaders in helping to grow and develop, not only as a doctor, but as a practice. But when I look to do things personally, so I know we were speaking earlier, I've just kind of dove into doing some triathlons. And, you know, one of the biggest motivating factors for this was that my best friend growing up as a child has been doing them for 4 years. And I started to exercise, and actually, you know, your buddy, Matt Walker, has posted a lot in the last year or so about his process. And I've known him peripherally, but over the last several months, we've become closer and closer. And seeing if they can do these things, why can't I? I've seen that to be something that helps to keep me on point, to keep me motivated, and to keep me driving forward.
So what would chiropractic look like if more doctors use the CBP technique?
Wow. Well, there'd definitely be a clear voice of what chiropractic is. It'd be something that could as well appease, I'll call it, folks who think that there might not be literature or research out there on what we do or why we're doing it. We would wind up seeing that there's a goal for care, and there's a goal for maintenance of care that's not based on something that's very subjective, but something that's, you know, clear and clinical. It's not only recognized as a major tool for assessment within chiropractic, but also outside of chiropractic for assessment of health. I think that we'd wind up seeing that patients could understand it and they could get it, rather than just having questions about it and saying, yes, whatever you say.
Yeah, you know, I fell in love with chiropractic biophysics method when I first got into chiropractic 10 years ago. And I realized early on that if we had more people just doing what they were doing at my clinic, then we would have more offices getting people better long term. And not to say that other chiropractors can't do that miracle adjustment or, you know, going to whatever technique that they believe in is the right one for them. Not saying that anybody's right or wrong, but the standardization of what clinical excellence is, that's what I found to be in the biophysics realm. So I learned so much about what you do. And if somebody's never been to a clinic that operates like yours or any of these other chiropractic biophysics offices, it's very hard for them to put their head around as to what happens.
Yeah, if anyone ever has a question about it too, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to answer. If they want to come visit, they could shadow for a shift to see what we do and how we do it. You know, the other thing you were mentioning about standardization, you know, one of the biggest challenges that students particularly face and young doctors face is how do I figure out how to practice? And it's a scary, daunting task, because you come out of school with tons of loans, and then you're expected to wind up either working with someone or starting something on your own that you have no idea what to do or how to do. So for me, developing practices that are multi-doctor practices are really a key and important. And they need to maintain the relationship while they're doing that. And I think that there's a really fair way that you could do that for young doctors, as well as I'll call it for host doctors, where you set up a relationship that winds up being a win-win for both the doctor and both doctors. And the bigger point winds up being that patients get outstanding care. Patients get that top-notch care in a system that when the doctor changes or a different doctor is in the office, the technique, the method, the process winds up staying the same, so that the care delivered and the outcome of the care winds up being the same, whether it's the host doctor, whether it's associate 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Having that standardized system can really be helpful versus having all the knowledge in your head and being the only doc that can wind up doing it because you've got this special, unique, different gift, which is a blessing, but it also winds up being a challenge. You know, I was speaking with a colleague of mine the other day, and he shared he hadn't been able to take a vacation in 7 years. That's nuts. Right? I mean, we work hard. What we do is hard work. It is not easy. And then we're business owners. So we need just as much time to wind up recharging and reconnecting so that when we are in the practice, we're able to focus, we're able to work hard, we're able to support our patients, we're able to keep digging and advancing what we do, we're able to support our staff so that they can support us, so that we can wind up changing more people's lives and having a blast while doing it.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Posture Screen, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Moguls, Fit to Lift, 5-Star Management, Rhino Coaching, Chiro Health USA, Local Gold, The Goodman Factor, McCaffrey Clinical Mentoring, Go Get Talks, Chiro Thin, Unmarket Your Practice, and Free My Pain Now with Dr. Matt DeDuro. Let's hustle.
Yeah, you know, a lot of things that you're saying, more people should tune into, because if you don't take time for yourself, you can't give to other people properly. And there are different levels of care provided. And I think there is a place for the, I'm just going to go in and get adjusted type clinics. But I also think that there's a place for the postural structural rehab style facilities as well. So I think that it's important to provide multiple tiers of opportunity for people to get influence into chiropractic care. And nobody's right, nobody's wrong, because, you know, chiropractors all go to school for the same amount of time. They all get educated the same way. So however they see fit to take care of their communities is up to them ultimately. But I do think that what chiropractic biophysics does and what you do, it's a tier above the just coming in, getting adjusted, because it does take the pressure off the subluxation and allow the body to heal. But I'm sure that Deed has research showing that, like, the typical adjustment doesn't really fix anything, but it does make the body flow a little bit better. But based on that, I know that there's a lot of the profession's so young. You know, we just celebrated the 124th year of chiropractic. So let's say that we're charging forward here, Dr. Gregg. What is it, 2020 coming up? What's the profession look like in year 2040?
Wow. You know, when I look out at what the profession looks like in 2040, I see some amazing things. I'm going to be honest with you, in that I don't necessarily think too big about the political things. And I think that's kind of sometimes where this question winds up going, because that's not something that I'm directly have control over now. But when I look at the chiropractic profession and what we do and how we do it for our patients, I know that our patients and people are going to need it, no matter where it is or no matter what it is. So as long as we keep telling the story, and as long as we keep reaching out to people to tell that story, and as long as we keep communicating the amazing stories of what chiropractic can do, then I see that the sky's the limit for chiropractic. And what's even more important is the sky is the limit in terms of the health of our patients. You know, that's part of the reason why I've launched a podcast as well called Real Chiropractic Stories. It's where I want to create a library of thousands of chiropractic stories told by the individual. You know, we are really good at telling our patients stories, but what we need is we need more people telling their own story. So I've been working on interviewing doctors. I've been working on interviewing patients. I've been working on interviewing parents for kids who can't tell their story, whether they're too young in that they're infants, or that they're just not able to because they're non-communicative, but they may be getting better. So I've been recording stories on this, and it's been absolutely a blast. We're going to actually launch next week. I hope you guys don't mind me sharing about it.
No, not at all.
We're going to be launching next week, but right now we're developing our launch team. So if you're excited to share stories and you want to help us share more chiropractic stories, our website is realchiropracticstories.com. And when you go there, there's two things that you can do. You can sign up to join our launch party. That's what we're going to be kicking off next week when the first episodes go live. And we're looking for people to listen, to watch, to share, to like, to comment on it, so more people can get these stories and get touched by these stories. And then also you can share your story. So what I'd love to do is spend some time and connect with you and share with the world your chiropractic story, because we need more stories resourced, inventory collected, because in my practice, we serve a lot of patients, but we don't serve everyone. And I think we've all had that person that says, oh, but that's not me. Oh, but that's not me. So if we could pool those stories into one collective, we can have a resource that's way more powerful and way more valuable than our own individual testimonial book, our own individual video testimonials on YouTube, just one collective resource. So I'll look forward to helping people to share those stories, because we need stories and we need research to support what we do and how we do it, so that not only we can touch people's hearts, but we can touch people's intellect as well.
So tell us some of your favorite marketing strategies.
The list is long, but I got to tell you, a couple of months ago, there was one that came through and we loved it. I would probably say the one that I got my practice started on was shaking hands and meeting people. And whether it was just getting out into the community and networking, or whether it was participating and supporting local events by being a sponsor and a vendor and being on site and shaking people's hands and meeting them. And just a couple of months ago, Jim came out to our practice and helped us with one of our events. And he did awesome. I mean, not only did he do awesome in terms of engaging with people and meeting people, but what was more powerful to me was how he helped to electrify my team members, and particularly my outreach team, and just recharge them, give them a sort of surge of energy that they could do this, that they know how to communicate the message. Because there's really, I would say, nothing more valuable than a team member or a patient that can go out and share the chiropractic story about how you deliver and what you do. So screenings and corporate events have been one of the foundational principles that we've grown our practice on. Over the last several years, we've added in some new and different technologies, and we've launched our YouTube channel, where we have over 600 subscribers, and that's been a blast and fun. We look to focus on individual health conditions and talk about why they happen, where they happen, what you could do for them at home, and then when to seek professional help and what the natural professional help will look like. So we have a lot of subscribers there, and has been another powerful tool for us. We also work on Facebook and sharing those stories and those videos, as well as we look to network with professionals, whether it's medical doctors or local attorneys as well. So for me, those three approaches are really how we work out in the community to wind up connecting with more people and to change more people's lives.
You know, when it comes to developing a marketing strategy, what you're talking about here is so much of it is anchored on old school marketing strategy, but we have to get with the times and be up to speed with, like you said, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram, the whatever the digital platforms are, because that's where our prospect is. And if we're going to meet our prospect where they are, we have to know that they show up in person, but they show up a lot more often digitally. So we have to mix the old school marketing with the relationship branding that we do, going to chamber meetings or whatever it is, community events. You have to go out there and shake hands and, pat babies on the head, but you also have to go out there and, figure out how to bridge into this new age of communication, which I can't say enough to you for jumping out there and saying, you know what, I'm just going to start a podcast. You know what, I'm going to start a YouTube channel. You know what, I have a voice and I have a need and I have something sparked inside of me that I want to contribute with. So we have to position ourselves as the chiropractor, is much more of a media company than just as a technician. And I think so many chiropractors, like your friend that didn't take a vacation in 7 years, that guy was living in the world of the technician, and he was so clouded with his idea that he had to rise and grind every day to go to the office, that he has no idea, not saying that I'm saying anything negative to the guy, but he has no idea of what it takes to become a media presence and how necessary that is for the future of chiropractic, rather than being one of those offices that says, yeah, I'm just one of those referral places and I don't do any advertising, I don't do any marketing, it's awesome. And those are the guys I'm like, shame on you, because the day you get complacent is the day that time passes you by, and then a new grad graduates and they start the podcast, they start the YouTube channel, and then you're going to wonder what you have to do to stay alive, because somebody else is with the times. They became that media company rather than a technician.
Well, on that, Jim, two totally things. I got to be honest with you. When we were out after that event and I shared with you my idea, that's really where the ball started working. So sometimes it takes spending time with someone who is where you are to wind up having the confidence or having the, I'll call it just balls or the willingness to say, if you can do it, I could do it too. And that really started things moving forward on me and on this process. towards winding up launching next week, which I'm so excited for. Additionally, that older doctor, what a blessing he has. Man, this guy has been able to communicate so well to all of his patients and tell the message of what chiropractic is. If he were to share it one other way, how many more people would be able to gain the health that they need?
Absolutely. And you know what, something else on top of that is when we take an initiative that is right, it helps more people. And if that's what chiropractors say, that they got into it for the cause anyways, there's multiple ways to communicate and help people. And I think that so many times people, especially in the chiropractic profession, think that the helping of people and serving of people is hands-on. And that's okay until you get burned out with hands-on. Then you have to go and do the reinvention phase of your life and respark your career and actually figure out what it matters to you to move forward, not only being the technician, but having fun with your profession and your degree.
Well, and Jim, for some folks, their burning desire and their burning passion is to be more hands-on. So we can't get upset with them for that. But for me, like all of these different technologies that we've added on, this is fun, right? Like, you know, up until about 4 months ago, I'll be honest with you, I didn't have a hobby, right? Like I looked at my dad and I always asked him, what's your hobby? What's your hobby? He never had one. And up until I picked up the triathlons a couple months ago, I would say that I didn't have a hobby, but it was always just fun and games for me to do work and to work on myself. And for that technician that thinks that that's what they're the best at, well, maybe it's time to add to your arsenal.
Amen.
So do you have a favorite app or program to stay engaged with your patients?
You know, we do a lot of our work to stay engaged with our patients on Facebook. That's where we have our direct back and forth. I've done a lot of communication with the world on our YouTube channel, which has been fun. And then we regularly use email and text for more of a day-to-day communication, like appointment sort of stuff and those sorts of things, or what's going on in the office. So that's really been our best way of communicating 2 ways, best back and forth.
So we're going to talk about you personally a little bit now. What do you like to read, listen to, watch? What are some of your hobbies? What do you do in your spare time?
So in my spare time, you know, right now, a lot of it does get supported to or directed to my kids. I've got a 6 and a 4-year-old, and they're awesome. I love them. Logan and Jordan, you're the best. And spending time with them, hanging out with them, and doing things with them. For me, like I just kind of mentioned, some of my hobbies have really been working on me. You know, I've been a work in progress, and sometimes we say that you're your worst enemy, but I've had to work really hard on myself to have more confidence, clarity, to get to the point that I'm. And to me, it's fun to do. I like to read anything. I do a lot of self-help reading, but right now I'm kind of, it caught me at a weird time. You asked me, what do I like to read? I'm right now in the middle of 2 spiritual books, and then a chiropractic focused book, and then finally I'm reading an autobiography. So I usually just read 1 book and finish, but earlier this year I decided I'd like to start reading before I go to bed. So I picked up a biography to start reading, and that's Jobs. And it's a big book, so I just read like a page or 2 a night, and it helps me to kind of move forward. I picked up The Power of Now, and I read it a little bit, and then I embrace it. I enjoy it. I spend some time with it and let my body think about it, as well as You're More Powerful Than You Think by Fred D. Domenico. So I picked up those 2 books, and I jump in, jump out, read a chapter or 2, and then finally I'm reading a book by a colleague of ours, Jason Ingham. The True Power of Chiropractic. It's his story and a book that he wrote, which has been really, really awesome. It's a really quick read, about 150 pages, so I've enjoyed that. In terms of listening to, you know, I used to listen to a lot of audiobooks. I used to live about an hour away from my office, and we moved a year ago to 10 minutes away from my office. So I've gained a lot of time back, but I miss a lot of the listening. So I may wind up picking that back up while I'm on that trainer all winter long. The winters are cold here. So I'll probably dive into some more books, but they're usually in the self-help directed category or personal development category. And so I listen to a handful of podcasts. I usually listen to Lewis Howes, you guys. I listen to Tim Ferriss occasionally. He gets to be a little too analytical and heady for me sometimes. And then I listen to Grant Cardone on occasion. And then within the profession as well, I listen to Dr. Stephanie Mage. She's got Family Seeking Wellness and Women Seeking Wellness. She was my chiropractor for a while in the city. And then, you know, other relaxation things is hanging out with my wife. She's reintroduced me to TV, and if I'd like to spend time with her in the evening, so sitting next to her, I have to watch TV because that's what she likes to do.
Isn't it amazing how many things we can be influenced by on a day-to-day basis and what we get the choice to do and how that equates to us being able to formulate our positivity, or we say, oh man, I'm too tired, or we're like, wow, I'm going to make time for this because this helps me evolve as a person. And that develops into maybe what you were looking for earlier as a hobby. And all those things segue into you finding your soul genius, which is sharing stories of other people to help amplify a profession that you work in and that you love. And all those roads lead to where you are today. So it's really cool to see what you say that you're interested in, your family, what you read, what you pay attention to, because that is what becomes you. And I know you're doing something else that you kind of reestablished in your life, and you're training for races now. So let's talk to our audience a little bit about why you decided to come back in and becoming more active and taking training seriously.
Yeah, so I'll say probably about 10 years ago, I had been training regularly, doing half marathons. And on my engagement party night, my best friend came up. We did an urban athlon. So that was 11-mile run, 12 different obstacles throughout. And about 3 miles in, it was a ladder you have to climb over, or more like a police ladder. And I climbed over it. I was going to put my foot on it, but I noticed someone's hand underneath my foot. So instead of smashing their hand, I kind of fell and I hit my shin. Well, I think I got a deep bone bruise at the top of my tibia, and I finished, but I got to tell you, I wasn't the same afterwards. I had a hard time running. It took me way longer than it should have. I had to walk a good bit. And after that, I really didn't get back into exercise and working out. I had excuses, whatever it may be. I was married, the time, the place, all of the excuses that I could. But, you know, about 4 or 5 months ago, my grandmother-in-law passed. So, you know, I'm not a spring chicken. Jim, welcome to your 40s. I'm 41. It's awesome. It's all about where you put it, and I think you're putting it in the right place. But my grandmother-in-law, she was 97. So what hit me really, I don't know why it didn't hit me, you know, at 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, but it hit me that my wife has got some longevity to her. And if I want to be able to embrace her for all of that time and enjoy her for all of that time, I got to make sure that I'm in sort of peak condition. And I got to be sure that I'm not just, you know, talking the talk when I'm here in practice, but actually walk the walk. So I started to get nice out here, and I started running out of my house, which is really an easy motivator. And my best friend, Buddy, who's doing the triathlons for the last few years, I reached out to, and I reached out to another friend in Seattle, Phil Crisp, who has done has done like 100 Ironman, and just did his 28th marathon outside of Ironman, and asked them about it. And my buddy was doing a triathlon in Nashville. So I said, let me work on some logistics. And within 3 days, I figured out how to get a bike there, a plane there. And I decided I was going to do the triathlon. So he then wrote out a training program, and him and his buddy who were doing it and me, we all hopped on some technology. We used the Garmin system. They have a cloud-based system where you can communicate about your workouts. And if anyone's on Strava, feel free to hook up with me. I have like 2 friends on there. I'd like to see what other people are doing and get some kudos. I see people who have like hundreds of kudos. I'm like, dude, how the heck do you get that? I got like 2. So connect with me on it. I'll follow you back. But we would see each other doing our workouts, and like I zoomed up to being able to keep track with them and keep close with them. Now they were doing the longer distance and I did the shorter distance, but we didn't. I got to tell you, I felt as good, if not better, than I felt way back when I was doing the training 10 years ago. And my time specifically on the run was not far off from what I was doing 10 years ago, which was pretty cool. So I finished that race and I came back and was really excited and looked for another one. And my bike guy told me that there was one in the north suburbs of Chicago, right on the lake, that it was a really good one and that I should do it. So I signed up, and that was 2 weeks ago. And I did my second sprint triathlon. It was so much fun. I did it on my own bike. I was biking faster than I thought I would. My buddy challenged me and said, you know, talk to me when you hit 19 miles an hour. I was like, I just hit 19 miles an hour. He was like, shit. But it was really fun. It was nasty and it was rainy and I almost didn't do it. The swim was hard. It was in open water. I've never done an open water swim and I spazzed out a bit. But it gives me a little bit more to work on. It gives me something to focus on over the winter so that I can continue to stay in shape and so that I continue to have cardiovascular health. And a bit of why I can still do that is because I've been taking care of my spine, I think, ever since, well, for the last 20 years.
So let me ask you a final question. While you're ramping yourself up for confidence to get back into training, was it scary?
No, I don't think it was, because I didn't give myself a chance to think about it. You know, it was like literally a week and like it was done. And like these guys wanted me to succeed. So I've never worn a watch in practice before, just because it was clunky and irritable and annoying. And one of the guys had a Garmin at home that he had let his son borrow, and he took it back and he sent it up to me. So these guys wanted to see me succeed. So when you get in a pack of people who want to support you, they just want to push you along and pull you along. And they wanted me to be a part of it, and it was fun. So I would say that it wasn't hard, you know, and we were training 6 days a week, which is a lot, but I didn't know anything else, right? Like the guy said, this is what you do to train for a triathlon. Okay, I'm doing it. You told me what to do. I had to coordinate, obviously, with my wife and with some of my travel schedules for continuing ed seminars to juggle it, but it just was what I was told that I should do. So I didn't get too scared of it. When the event started to get closer, I got scared about the event and the process. I got scared about the first event was a jump into a river that was going downstream. And I was scared about, you know, missing the out of the water. I wasn't really scared about the right things. I wasn't scared about the temperature of the water, which was freezing, and how dark it was. You know, I was swimming in a pool that was chlorinated. But, you know, luckily it was a really short first swim, and I did really well on that one, well enough to think I could do it again.
That's awesome.
Well, we have reached the end of our time together, Gregg. I want to thank you for being on the show. Before we jump off, what are some web links where people can find out more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, super. So first of all, I want to thank you guys. This has been awesome. You guys are amazing for what you do and at what you do. Please keep it up. Keep sharing with the profession and sharing with the world. You're making massive changes and a part of it. For me, if people want to get in touch with me, they can reach out to me on Facebook. You could just spell my name, Gregg Gerstin, or get as close as you can. I spell my Gregg with two G's at the end. You could reach out to me on our website for our podcast. That's realchiropracticstories.com. There you can wind up connecting with us. You can also reach out to me at my office's website, www.alignwc.com. Let's see, you can email me at Dr. Gerstin, that's Gerstin at alignwc.com. You can even give me a phone call. I'll give you my personal cell phone number, 847-942-0880. And feel free to ask me about anything, whether it's CBP, whether it's sharing your story, a patient story that you have that you think should be shared and coordinated as part of this library, patient care, scoliosis management. I love to help people.
Awesome, brother.
All right. thank you again for being our guest today, and we just want you to enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Will do. Lots of lives to change. Thank you guys, and enjoy the rest of your day as well.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Will do. Bye-bye.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.